prepare for their lunar flyby, they'll be configuring the cabin as they'd like to have it to allow for proper positioning as they move about to and from the windows, taking photos of the moon. Dimming the lights also helps prevent reflections from inside Orion onto the windows. Ahead of this lunar flyby, let's dive in and explain what you can expect over the next several hours. The crew has about 6 hours allotted to make observations about the moon. Throughout the flyby, their activities have been precisely timelined. There are five blocks of time during which the crew will be observing the moon from Orion's windows. At any time, 2 members will be at the windows working in a pair. One crew member will be taking photos from window 2 with a blue shroud over the window. This can help prevent that glare or reflection from inside Orion. They have an 800.
Welcome, everyone.
Great, thank you. You ready? It's okay.
How do I, is it all?
We are now 36 minutes until we see the Integrity crew pass the Apollo 13 distance record. And joining me on console, I have Julianne Gross, the Artemis curation lead. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
We're very excited to have you. So can you tell me about your role as Artemis curation lead and what that entails?
Yeah, so for the overall Artemis campaign, I'm the Artemis lunar sample curation lead. That means I'm helping NASA to return the next set of lunar samples from the lunar surface. And for Artemis 2 specifically, I'm one of the science theme leads, and specifically I'm responsible or the voice for impacts, poles, and landing sites.
Fascinating. So, what helped us select the targets that the crew is going to be photographing today?
So we had a plan coming in where we basically made a list of all the available targets during the April launch window, because before you launch, we wouldn't exactly be sure which targets would be visible. And so once we launched, we then were able to cut down on that list and prioritize our targets. And the 5 theme leads came together and really discussed and talked through which
long lens configured for lunar flyby.
which targets we could then see and prioritize. And so that made it into our plan. We worked then with timeline to make sure that all the targets are visible. Some targets are time dependent, like Earthset or Earthrise, and some targets will rotate out of view when integrity starts going around the moon. And so we put these in early so that the crew has a chance to describe those to us.
Fascinating. I cannot wait to hear what they have to say. So we just heard them say that their long lens is configured. That's very exciting. And for us, when we look at the moon from Earth, what features are we seeing that the crew will also fly by today?
Yeah, so I really hope that people on Earth who are in nighttime will look up into the moon tonight. The features that the crew will see that we can also currently see is Aristarchus Plateau. Grimaldi is another feature. They're going to be sort of on our limb. And then Oceanus Procellarum, that really dark, large area on the near side that we can see. The crew is going to see that in the beginning. The more they fly around, the less of that they will see. So those are targets we will hear them describe early on in the flyby.
Fascinating. Well, and the crew has been training for years for this day. And so we're going to hear them make a lot of calls about what they are seeing on the moon. And they're going to use a lot of interesting terms that I myself need some brushing up on. So could you walk us through a few of the things that we'll hear them use to describe the moon, like albedo, exosphere, ejecta, just some of those major terms we expect to hear from the crew?
Yeah, of course. Albedo is basically a term of a reflectiveness of the surface. And so high albedo usually for the moon means bright areas, and low albedo means like darker areas. And so when you look into the night sky, you can see the high albedo areas are the white parts and the low albedo ones are the darker areas. Ejecta is when you have an impact and it ejects or throws out material that then ends up on the surface, and you can see that as sort of rays or ray systems. So you might hear them describe, oh, I can see Ohm, for example, with its rays. It has an asymmetric rays coming out, and so we're excited to hear them describe that. You might hopefully hear stuff about color or color hues, and so if they can see any changes in those color hues from like white to gray to maybe brownish, we're excited to hear about that. Exosphere is the almost no existing atmosphere of the moon. It's barely there. But there is dust on the lunar surface that can get lofted up through electrostatic forces. And when the sun goes behind the moon, it can scatter forward on those dust particles and sort of like create a little glow on the horizon. And so we're really excited to see if the crew can actually see that.
This is so exciting. Thank you so much for walking through all of that with us. Julian Gross, Artemis Curation Lead, we really appreciate you joining us here today, and good luck to your team.
Thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
We are now MET 4 days, 18 hours, and 49 minutes into the flight of Orion. This view of the moon from the Orion spacecraft as we get closer and closer. astronauts to ever leave Earth. This view coming from a camera mounted on the tip of one of Orion's 4 solar arrays. Each array has a camera on its tip, and so we anticipate getting views throughout the lunar flyby. Of course, except during the point of loss of signal when the spacecraft flies behind the moon. Inside the cabin, the crew are configuring the inside of Orion for today's flyby, making sure they have everything just where they want it to help them take the pictures that they are aiming for the science team here on the ground. Coming up in just a few minutes, we will have a pre-lunar flyby conference. During that Lunar Flyby Science Crew Conference, our science officer here on console, Kelsey Young, will be speaking directly with the crew members about their targets, about their goals for today, what they expect to see, and what we are hoping to hear from them. We have a lot of milestones coming up today, so make sure you don't miss them. The first coming up again at 1:56 p.m. Eastern Time, the crew will pass the distance from Earth record set by Apollo 13 in 1970. At 2:45 p.m., lunar flyby officially begins. The crew will have that time on their schedules to begin photographing and providing audio recordings of what they are seeing on the moon. At 7:02 p.m., Orion will make its closest approach to the moon, approximately 4,070 miles away. Of course, all of these numbers are going to have to be confirmed following the flyby. These are estimates, and we are working with orbital mechanics. At 7:07 p.m., Orion reaches its maximum distance from Earth, approximately 252,760 miles away from us all. At 8:35 p.m., the spacecraft will enter a solar eclipse. The crew will become the first to see a solar eclipse from the moon. Ahead of the official beginning of flyby today, Kelsey Young, Artemis Science Flight Operations Lead, will be conducting a pre-lunar flyby crew conference. She will give information on camera setup, remind the crew of their intended targets, answer questions from the astronauts, and more. Young will help the crew set their targeting timeline, which counts down the time they have to image each target and what they'll be capturing next. She'll also remind them that the ground team will be calling for science sit reps, also known as situation reports. Those are essentially call-downs to report what they've been observing. They'll continue to do this even through their LOS, their loss of signal, as those communications will come down later on after they reconnect with us on Earth. This view in the cabin, you can see the crew members are already using their cameras, getting set up, and they have dimmed the cabin lights to allow them better visibility outside of the windows and fewer reflections. Now, 28 minutes until they become the humans to travel farthest from our planet.
Houston Integrity, we are ready for the conference on your call.
Houston is ready for the conference, passing you over to Science. Good morning, crew. This is Science. We couldn't be more excited for a full day of lunar and planetary observations today, the first one in over 54 years. How do you hear me?
We hear you loud and clear, and Kelsey, you just got to know you're pulling us away from the moon right now, so let's go.
Integrity, Houston. In mission control, all of your flight controllers and your flight director have flipped their Artemis 2 patches around. We are earthbound and ready to bring you home.
That's great. See the light of day as we head back to
Why? Well, they're very tall. I said, well, imagine a
A very special moment just now in Mission Control, ahead of the crew's flight to Kennedy Space Center, and during one of their last sims or simulations here, they visited the Mission Control team in Artemis Mission Control in Houston and brought us each a patch. Everyone in the flight control room has had these on their signifiers at their console. On one side of the patch that you've probably seen is the moon with the Earth behind it. Now that we've passed behind the moon and we are returning home, the flight control team has instructed everyone in the room to switch their patch around so that the Earth is closer and the moon is behind us. We are really looking forward to seeing the Artemis 2 crew, and the Capcom Jenny Gibbons did call that update up to the crew that the flight control team here has turned their patches around as was instructed by the crew during that last sim, and we are counting down the days until they get home. They are now 5 days, 1 hour, and 3 minutes mission elapsed time into the Artemis 2 mission.
I was actually not expecting to come online. No, they're not going to land on the moon.
Joining me here in the room, Artemis Mission Control, I have Angela Garcia, Artemis 2 Science Officer.
Hey,
thanks for being here,
Thank
Angela.
You,
It is an honor to be here. What a day. Everyone's been buzzing. I can't contain myself. So it's been a really awesome day.
So you're sitting on console at the science console now. Have you been in the SIR earlier today?
There's a lot going on. So I went here first, and then I'm going to go there after.
Clear, Houston.
All right, Integrity, we hear you. That was a little clipped, but I think we have a better link now. We experienced some blockage from a solar array. We moved it, and we are in bias tail to sun.
Okay, Houston, you're coming in loud and clear, and copy, we're in bias tail to sun now.
Affirm and Integrity, just so you know, we did not hear your response once we flipped our patches. Jeremy, we heard you call down, but you were clipped, and then we briefly lost comm. Glad we're back.
Okay, copy that. We were just excited that we got to share in that you, the MER, and Mission Control flipped your patches around, and that side of the patch is getting to see the light of day. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Our pleasure.
They're almost done.
Okay, Angela. So
Yeah,
can you
mission
tell
is
me a little
almost
bit about your role
like
supporting Artemis 2
50%
and the
done.
science preparation for the mission?
Yes, so I'm one of the 3
ഞാനിത്
science officers. So Kelsey's been on console all day. I'll take over kind of closer to the end of the day. And then Trevor Graff is on the planning shift. And so it's the 3 of us in this 24-hour cycle supporting the mission. And so the
Fully
science officer
automated,
console is a brand new console
AI-driven
to mission control.
news
And it's not every
aggregator.
day that you get a new discipline incorporated into mission control. So it's
Artemis
been such a
mission
significant
നമുക്ക് ഇതുപോലത്തെ പല
milestone for us.
പരിപാടികളും ചെയ്യാൻ നമ്മളെ പ്രേരിപ്പിച്ചു എന്നുള്ളതാണ്. ഇതിൽ വരുന്ന ഇമേജസ് കുറച്ചും കൂടി കറക്റ്റ് ചെയ്യാനുണ്ട്. അത് പിക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നത് ശരിയായിട്ടല്ല. Oh gosh, this keeps happening. I need to fix this.
Behind the moon, their observation period does not stop. They will still be taking pictures and making annotations of what they are seeing. They'll be looking for the limb of the moon, Earth set, and then Vavilov crater, which we have previously seen. They'll swap positions at the window before moving into a crew choice option. They will get to pick things that are interesting to them on the surface, take pictures, and explain why they find them that way. They'll also be looking for any impact flashes. These are short-lived flashes on the lunar surface caused by impact bombardment.
So far, everything looks
Just
good.
before Earthrise, the crew will be looking for lofted lunar dust. This may be lofted just above the lunar surface, and we could only see it just before Earthrise along the dark western limb. Any Earthshine would illuminate potential lofted dust. But once the crew is all the way around the Earth, the brightness of the Earth will wash out any of that dust they might be able to see. These were based on observations from Apollo missions and orbital spacecraft, and so we're very interested to see if the crew might be able to capture some of that lunar dust today. Following that lofted lunar dust target, the next will be Earthrise. We will regain communications with the crew shortly after Earthrise. There will be a short observation break period where the moon is not in view. That's because we are also anticipating the crew seeing an eclipse today. The moon won't be in view because the team here in Mission Control Houston will need to change the attitude of the spacecraft and ensure that its solar arrays are gathering light from the sun heading into that eclipse period. So we will have communication with the crew, we just won't be able to see the moon. However, we will have views during that eclipse time frame. During that time, the science team is looking to know it will only be illuminated by Earthshine at that point. So they want to know what the whole moon looks like overall, but they also want the crew to look into deep space and potentially see if they can spot any planets. Behind the moon, their observation period does not stop. They will still be taking pictures and making annotations of what they are seeing. They'll be looking for the limb of the moon, Earth set, and then Vavilov crater, which we have previously seen. They'll swap positions at the window before moving into a crew choice option. They will get to pick things that are interesting to them on the surface, take pictures, and explain why they find them that way. They'll also be looking for any impact flashes. These are short-lived flashes on the lunar surface caused by impact bombardment. Just before Earthrise, the crew will be looking for lofted lunar dust. This may be lofted just above the lunar surface, and we could only see it just before Earthrise along the dark western limb. Any Earthshine would illuminate potential lofted dust. But once the crew is all the way around the Earth, the brightness of the Earth will wash out any of that dust they might be able to see. These were based on observations from Apollo missions and orbital spacecraft, and so we're very interested to see if the crew might be able to capture some of that lunar dust today. Following that lofted lunar dust target, the next will be Earthrise. We will regain communications with the crew shortly after Earthrise. There will be a short observation break period where the moon is not in view. That's because we are also anticipating the crew seeing an eclipse today. The moon won't be in view because the team here in Mission Control Houston will need to change the attitude of the spacecraft and ensure that its solar arrays are gathering light from the sun heading into that eclipse period. So we will have communication with the crew, we just won't be able to see the moon. However, we will have views during that eclipse time frame. During that time, the science team is looking to know it will only be illuminated by Earthshine at that point. So they want to know what the whole moon looks like overall, but they also want the crew to look into deep space and potentially see if they can spot any planets. Once the eclipse is over, the lunar flyby period will have ended. We are live through the whole thing, and even once flyby is over today, we remain live 24/7 on NASA's YouTube.
Go ahead.
I don't know if Catherine and Devin are still there, but if they are, just wanted to just let them know how much fun we're having out here. It's extraordinary to be on the far side of the moon right now, just see it hanging out there and looking back at the Earth, and Ashley and Kaylin, I know you're back in Canada, but if you happen to be watching too, just wanted to say hi to all you guys. Love you guys, and we'll be heading back your way shortly.
Thanks, Jeremy. I hear they are watching, and your family is still here. So thanks for passing that along.
This view inside the Orion spacecraft, and it's a little hard to make out, but on the left there, that is Jeremy Hansen just calling down some well wishes to his family, joining us in the viewing room and watching online. Currently in the window are Victor Glover and Christina Cook. They are taking pictures outside of the window as they are now in their flyby observation block. At this time, Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen are serving as support crew members, and they are also going to have an opportunity to enjoy their midday meal at this time. On the lunch menu today for Reed Wiseman and Jeremy Hansen, we have vegetarian chili, salmon croquettes, chicken with peanut sauce, sweet and savory kale, pickled beets, chocolate pudding, barbecued beef brisket, spaghetti and meat sauce, Italian vegetables, butternut squash, candy-coated chocolates, and maybe even a little bit of coffee. And if you look closely, you can see it looks like they are getting into some of their food for the midday meal. All of the food on the spacecraft is rehydratable. We don't have an option for fresh food as there's not a refrigerated section of the Orion spacecraft. So all of this food can either be rehydrated or eaten straight from the package, just depends on what the food actually is. And for food that needs to be rehydrated, there is information on each package of how much water needs to fill that bag and what temperature it needs to be. We are now 4 days, 23 hours, and 39 minutes, 40 minutes actually, into the flight of Artemis 2, the spacecraft now under 4,500 miles from the moon. We are now also under 30 minutes away from loss of signal with the astronauts. We will regain that communication about 40 minutes later. They will still be photographing the moon and documenting what they're seeing while they're behind the moon. We especially look forward to potential Earthset and Earthrise views. As you can see on the left side of your screen, we are streaming this solar array camera view throughout the flyby. And the science team also plans to capture an occasional still photo with the solar array intermittently, perhaps one every 8 to 10 minutes. Still photos represent the highest resolution imagery from those GoPro cameras. So starting 5 minutes before Earthset and loss of signal, the science team will capture a series of photos, one every 30 seconds, to include Earthset, all the way through 5 minutes after Earthrise and acquisition of signal. In order to capture these frequent photos, the solar array camera that we were streaming will need to switch to time-lapse photo mode. So during this time, the streaming video quality won't be as sharp as you have it right now, but we want to ensure that the science team captures the data that they need during these time frames. And we really look forward to seeing those higher resolution images once they're available. But with the view you are seeing right now, we are sharing bandwidth on the Orion spacecraft with every system that is keeping the spacecraft powered and the crew alive, especially the environmental control and life support system. As this is the first flight with crew, this is also the first flight of a life support system, keeping the crew healthy and safe on the way to the moon and the way home. On the timeline, we're getting towards the end of the cabin and window team swap period, but it looks like our astronauts Victor Glover and Christina Cook are already photographing the moon outside of those windows. The next target is Ohm Crater, and this is something that they have photographed previously during the flyby. This is a small, complex crater with a prominent ray system, and as referenced earlier, it's the size of the Eye of the Sahara. That Eye of the Sahara is a feature in Mauritania. Seeing this crater more than once throughout the flyby allows the crew to photograph it at different lighting conditions. Those different lighting conditions help expose different portions of the target and can help the science team learn a little bit more about how it formed and what it is today. Again, this view inside the spacecraft as the crew continues photographing the moon outside their windows. They have turned the lights off to allow them to better get photos of the moon, preventing any reflections from coming in from the spacecraft.
Nothing to answer, no. Let the fear
expect the crew to be targeting Ohm Crater for another 6 minutes or so before they move into a discussion of the limb. Now, the science team has asked for a science sit rep or situation report during that time, so we hope to hear calls from the crew on what they are observing. If you've been following along, at the start of the day, we did have much more of the moon visible. And even just an hour or so ago, we could see about half of the moon. We are now continuing to see more of the far side and that darkness where the moon is not reflecting light from the sun. Earlier, we were also able to see some of those darker portions, that old lava flow that we often see on the near side of the moon and that we can all see from Earth. That has mostly gone away. We are now just seeing very little of Oriental. That's down to the bottom right of the moon. You can see just a small dark portion near the limb.